Twisted Metal Black is insane. It is such a product of its time, and it's the perfect example of the 2000s edge. This game, more than any other in my opinion, is the one that encapsulates the PS2 vibes perfectly. It is like the perfect creation of the twisted mind of David Jeff, and I love it for it. I know that in a way it's a return to the Twisted Metal 1 and 2 roots, where the game was a bit more serious. But if like me you grew up playing Twisted Metal 3, 4 and Small Brawl, going for this...
You should have brushed between snacks.
To this...
Now that I'm free, I'm going to be the greatest of all time.
Was quite a shock to say the least. Twisted Metal 1 and 2 were directed by the same creative mind of Twisted Metal Black, David Jeff, the same guy that gave us the original God of War games on the PS2. He had nothing to do with the other 3 PS1 games, hence why the shift in tone and vibes in general. The series went from very dark and serious, to hella goofy, and back to serious and edgy again. It's a sight to behold. Twisted Metal Black is the kind of game I cannot imagine being released these days. Not just because of how violent and downright creepy it is, but because of how niche it is. It's a car combat game, a genre pretty much extinct by itself, with a very dark atmosphere that is basically the wet dream of new metal edgy boys of the 2000s. And yes, I am projecting because that was pretty much me. And it wasn't the only one like that. Back in the 6th generation of consoles, being edgy was the norm. Case in point, Twilight Princess. Dude, you control Link the elf boy, yeah? But get this, now he's like a werewolf, and the anime are so creepy, dude. They like some shadow demons that do digital sound, whoa. Also, Zelda is like goth now, and check this out, this little gremlin that was riding on the entire game, she's actually a big titty goth GF, right me, mommy. Or what about Luigi's Mansion? Instead of the traditional Mario adventure, Nintendo went with a horror-inspired adventure featuring Luigi. And although it's very light on the edginess factor, if you game over in this game, Mario straight up dies. And there's a huge difference between being edgy and being dark. A dark game wears its heavy themes on their sleeves, and it's somewhat tied to the overall narrative of the story of the game. An edgy game, on the other hand, uses dark themes mostly as an accessory, in the pursuit of being cool. I think we could have some fun and create a chart and scale a few games based on 5 different categories. Is the game dark? Is it serious? Is it edgy? Is it cool? Or is it cringe? Let's judge a few games based on these criteria. Starting with the subject of the video, Twisted Metal Black. The game is quite dark. I'd say it's an 8 on the dark scale. It takes itself very seriously, but realistically speaking, it's a 5 on that one. It's incredibly edgy. Easy 9 on this one. It's quite cool, especially if you're a teen, so it gets a 7 on that one. But when the seriousness doesn't hit, it can also be quite cringy, so it takes a 3 on this one. If Twisted Metal Black was a music CD, it will be Awaken the Fallen by Avenged Sevenfold. Now this one is a doozy, Shadow the Hedgehog. This game tries to act all serious and dark, but it fails in both categories miserably. 0 for serious and 1 for dark. It's incredibly edgy, our first perfect stand on this category. This game tries incredibly hard to be cool. It wants to convince you so hard it's a 10 in coolness, that it actually breaks the scale and circle back to 0. And yes, it's incredibly cringe. 8 on this one. If this game was a music CD, it would be still not getting any from Simple Plan. Devil May Cry 3. This game doesn't even try to pretend it's a serious game. 0 for this category. But you know what? Even while being very much aware that it's a video game that only exists for you to have a good time, it's actually kinda dark with all the monsters you have to fight through the game. So it gets a 3 on this category. It's very edgy, but it knows it's edgy. So even though it's a solid 8 on the edginess scale, it's also a solid 8 on the cool factor because of that. And although it's cringy sometimes, It's a risk you gotta take when you're aiming for cool. It's just a slightly cringe, getting a 3. If this game was a music CD, it would be The Poison from Bullet from a Valentine. How about Kingdom Hearts 2? I mean, Roxas is really an emo boy, so we gotta put this game on the list. It takes itself very seriously, but let's be real, how serious can you be when you got scenes like this?
Say fellas, did somebody mention the door to darkness?
It takes a 2. It tries to be dark as well, with all this Organization 13 stuff, and I remember quite a few fans of it back in the day that thought that it was super dark. But they're Disney fans, so take that as you will. 1 point on dark. It is very edgy though. As you play through it, you can see how it oozes edginess, from the opening video to the final boss, so it gets a solid 7 on this category. This game also tries very hard to be cool, and I'm not gonna lie, at some points it is very cool. But because it tries so hard to do so, it's equally cringe at some points. So it's perfectly balanced at 5 points in both categories. If this game was a music CD, it would be 3 Cheers for a Sweet Revenge from My Chemical Romance. Now for the final game, Silent Hill. I decided to also rate this game to better explain my point about the difference between edgy and dark. Because Silent Hills is incredibly dark, probably one of the darkest games on the original PlayStation, taking a perfect 10 in this category. And it's also a very serious game, with expensive lore that you can get lost in, taking an 8 in this category. But despite being very dark, it's far from edgy. The dark elements used in this game are never there to be cool or for some cheap shock tactic. If something grotesque is going on in the game, it's very likely that it's tied to the story or character somehow, so it only takes 2 on edginess. This game is very cool, but for a very different reason than the other games judges are cool, so it's just a 4 on that scale. And although yeah, the voice acting can be a bit cringy in this game, giving it a 2 on that scale, it's a product of its era. And considering the original PlayStation was basically the first console where games were constantly being dubbed, it's expected the quality wasn't always there. If this game was a music CD, it would be the first game soundtrack, because to be honest, nothing can compare to Akira Yamaoka genius. There's plenty of games that would be great on this list, like Prince of Persia Warriors Within, or Persona 3, for example.
Persona.
But if we keep going, we'll be here all day. Alright, now that we got our little game out of the way, let's go back to our subject. Gaming has changed a lot these last 2 decades, and games that used to be celebrated, even though they weren't big hitters, are mostly being developed by indie companies nowadays. The AAA games of today, save a few exceptions, seems to lack the kind of bite and edge that games of the past had. And you know why that happens? Because the development cost of games skyrocketed these last 2 decades. And when something costs way too much to produce, the shareholders expect a bigger profit. And when you need a bigger profit, you need bigger install base. And when you need a bigger install base, you have to make a game that panders to as many people as possible. And that's when you lose what makes your game special. You know that feeling when you discover a game that in no way, shape or form is made to appease to everyone? And even though it might be strange at first, sometimes even daunting, eventually it clicks with you, and when you least expect it, you've been playing it for over 40 hours. And you just know that when you finish it, you'll remember it for years to come. That usually only happens when a game is focused on giving you a unique experience, be it by gameplay, story, or any other mechanic that would be like a fish out of water in a AAA experience. These games that dare to do something risky are the ones that tend to leave a mark on us, because when they click with us, we know we found something special. Something that, instead of trying to appease to everyone, decide to be unique to you. And that's why edginess is dead in the AAA industry, because it's not marketable anymore. Just like many other aspects of games and genres, like for example rhythm games. Why don't we ever get bigger rhythm games anymore? Because Activision and EA milked Guitar Hero and Rock Band to the ground until it wasn't profitable anymore. Why skate games like Tony Hawk and the Skate series disappeared? Same deal, pump dozens of low quality sequels, and when the interest is not there anymore, vanish into the night, leaving small developers to pick up the pieces. hell, we're seeing the same old story once again, this time with racing games. Can you believe that? So much so that when there's an awards show like the Video Game Awards, they have to lump racing games together with sports games now, since we're lacking big racing releases. A genre that absolutely thrived on old generations, barely ever get any new games anymore, and when they do, it's some microtransaction riddle garbage, with barely any redeeming qualities that are considerably worse than games of the same series. Unless you think that graphic fidelity is the only important thing in a game, of course. And if that's the case, don't worry, you grow out of it eventually. And that's why I miss edginess in gaming. Not because I long to be a teenager again and be mad about the world, but because I know that even if a game doesn't click with me, if it's unique enough, I know it will click with someone else. And it might be that person's new favorite game ever made. And as long as developers keep releasing games that aren't afraid to be niche, strange, sometimes overcomplicated, but most importantly, special, I know that I might even find my new favorite game. We gotta remember that the opposite of edgy is not serious. The opposite of edgy, it's dull. And let me tell you, there was nothing dull about Twisted Metal Black, and now more than ever, we need games like it to make a return. Well, that's it guys. I know this video was a bit different from the other ones I made so far, but I wanted to express how I've been feeling about this subject for a while. And I think that Twisted Metal Black was the best game to represent this conversation. What do you guys think about this? What is your opinion on the current state of the gaming industry? Let me know in the comments. And don't forget to drop a like on the video because that helps a lot. And subscribe if you wanna see more videos like this in the future. That's it for now. Bye bye.